Good morning, everybody. It is 9:30 sharp. Get your coffee, get your water, whatever you feel like. And we're going to get the meeting started. So let me help everybody out. You know, it's spring training in Florida for baseball for our baseball fans. Thank you, Texas. And I went to the spring training game the other day. And I couldn't understand, I was at batting practice, that's before the game starts, why the baseball was getting larger and larger. And then it hit me. Come on, guys. All right. What did one ocean say to the other ocean? Nothing. They just waved. Better? Why aren't koalas considered bears? Somebody translate over there. Thank you. Because they don't have the qualifications. And with that, let's have roll call, Madam Secretary.
All right. Okay. Andover A, absent. Andover B, absent. Andover E, absent. Andover F,
Present by proxy.
all right.
That's good.
So,
Andover F.
Let me see.
It's on. Now this is going to be. Andover F, present by proxy.
Andover G, absent. Bedford A, absent. Bedford B, absent. Bedford C, absent. Bedford D, absent. E, D. Okay. Bedford F, absent. Bedford H,
Present by proxy.
Brookfield.
Present by proxy.
Cambridge B, absent. Cambridge E, absent. Cambridge F, absent. Cambridge H, absent. Cambridge I, absent. Cambridge K,
Present by proxy.
Cambridge L, absent. Canton Court D, absent. Devonshire,
Present by proxy.
Dorchester A,
Present by proxy.
Dorchester B,
Present by proxy.
Dorchester C,
Present by proxy.
Dorchester D, absent. Fairborn, absent. Oh, forgot. Whoops. Last name, Steve.
How can you miss me?
You didn't check. Fairfield B, absent. Fairfield C, absent. Gloucester A,
Present by proxy.
Gloucester B,
Present by proxy.
Gloucester C, absent. Gloucester D, absent. Gloucester E, absent. Gloucester F,
Present by proxy.
Gloucester G, absent. Gloucester K, absent. Gloucester M,
Present by proxy.
Gloucester N, absent. Highgate A,
Present by proxy.
Highgate B,
Present by proxy.
Highgate E, absent. Highgate F, absent. Knowles 1, absent. Knowles 2, absent. Knowles 3, absent. Lancaster 3, absent. Lancaster 4, absent. Manchester 1, absent. Manchester 3, absent. Nantucket 2, absent. Last name? Do you have it? What is it again? I'm sorry. Mice. Yeah, you got it. Okay. Thank you. Oxford 1, absent. Fort Smith,
Present by proxy.
Quail Pass, absent. Radisson 1, absent. Radisson 2, absent. Richmond,
Present by proxy.
Tremont 2, absent. Villeroy,
Present by proxy.
Warrington, absent. Yorkshire, absent. Madam President, you had 72 associations with 3,973 units with 71.9%. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Araceli. All right, with that, let's get the meeting to order, and if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, our first order of business, I'm going to try to talk lower because you said it's so loud. Is that good? All right. First order is to approve the January 17th membership meeting draft minutes. Someone to make a motion to approve? Thank you, Dan, and thank you. All right, discussion. Changes. All in favor? Anybody opposed? So moved. All right, let's move on to management reports. And this morning we're going to start with Paul Stern from First Service. Take it away, Paul.
Good morning, good morning. Well, I'd like to start with the end of what might be on my agenda. Well, since that's on the screen, why don't we do that first? We can do that first. Right now in February, we're trending towards 32 transfers and 28 leases. More or less the same numbers as in January. And now that I did that part, Araceli, do you have a very engaging, do you have that great photo? Of Alex. All right. Hey, who's this weirdo up there, right? So for those of you that have heard, this is Alex Novak. This is our new community association manager for where Helena Warren used to be for those associations. So if you're in one of Helena's former assigned associations, this is the name that you've been hearing about the last month or so, and I'm happy to say that Alex is through our corporate onboarding. Corey's been a significant part of that, and I want a public thank you to you for helping with that. And Alex, do you have anything you want to say other than hello and when your birthday is so people can shop?
November 7th. November 7th.
All right, so as he meets yourselves in the coming weeks, make sure to ask him what he wants for his birthday. So, thank you. All right, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Few other little items. My report this month is somewhat shorter than some months. On the landscaping front, the big news is the bids are coming in next week, and the Federation will have all sorts of fun along with myself wading through those bids and hoping to find that they make great sense for the community. On the refuse front, with a community or two that still may have a bin count request, it is mostly behind us, and I have heard remarkably little back from the associations about that. So in this case, like often in life, if there's silence, that's sort of like tacitly, that's a good thing. On the Corporate Transparency Act, believe it or not, that ping pong ball, it's back on. This is where you're supposed to groan and go, ugh, I can't believe it's back on. But it's back on. In the good news column, we're happy to help you kind of muddle your way through that, and the deadline is July 1st. Our annual meeting cycle is over. That's where we feel like celebrating. For the new board members that might be in the audience, just know that we will be doing some outreach and education, either board by board. Maybe we'll set up something in a more of a group format for the newbies to try to help you understand how to be as effective as you possibly can be. And I'm going to say publicly, thank you for being a volunteer. It's not always easy to figure it all out initially. So we're here to try to help the newbies get through that process with a lower amount of stress than they might have otherwise. On the board certification course front, two little nuggets of news on that. There is in this room, there's going to be a public 4-hour session. That will be with Dan Greenberg from Greenberg Nikoloff. I have seen Dan in person before speak at other things, and it's ironic that is who is going to be doing this one, but he's engaging, and in as much as that session can be made interesting, I think he'll try to do that. As a fallback position, if you're not able to attend that event, First Service has its own on-demand digital offering that if you can't make it to the in-person or prefer to do it from a computer, we'll have a version, but I can promise you a 4-hour version online is far more likely to put you to sleep than the in-person. So you may want to try to get to the in-person if possible. And that's really it, because I did the last piece first, and my last piece was about Alex. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And now we turn to Matt with Vesta's report.
Good morning, everyone. I apologize for the raspy voice. I was yelling at my daughter's volleyball games last weekend, and it has not recovered since. So speaking of health, let's transition to our fitness programming. For those of you that are not aware, in December we had 8,000 gym visits as our snowbirds have returned and New Year's resolutions have come underway. We had 13,300 visits for the month of January. Land group class attendance was 4,800. I will not read through each and every single point of data. For spa and salon usage, about $30,000 in services and merchandise sales for the month. As we transition to food and beverage, total South Club food and beverage sales in January, $227,000. La Perk and North Club catering, close to $19,000. The Paradise Palm Bar January sales, lower at $7,500. We've spoken at length a couple meetings about this, that apparently when it's cold, folks do not like to drink margaritas at the pool. It makes sense. So we had 8 days where we did have shutdowns due to weather, and the outdoor concerts were also rescheduled. So, but we are seeing an increase once January picked back up, and into February and March. Eddie and the team have a ton of stuff planned, so
You're
that's
welcome.
exciting. Yes,
welcome.
thank you for your participation.
You're welcome.
Of note, Eddie and the team are familiar with my disdain for lines. So this South Club Portico pickup message actually pertains also to Palm Court as well. To help us serve you more efficiently and reduce wait times during phone calls, we kindly ask you have your order ready before calling Portico Pickup. The reason this is on here is we had a 19-minute phone call the other day where the resident asked our team to read them the menu. And you start with a phone call and you're trying to work and serve, and at the end of the day, you're looking at 19 minutes for a quesadilla with chicken. So again, just to help minimize lines, anything that can be done, this is a big part of it. We have a lot of folks that kind of take their time or don't know what they want when they get up there, and we know the lines can be long. So this will help speed that up. The team is working on some different plans as well, but just to give you an idea, this is a big help for us. Guest passes in January, 6,200. That is a 15% increase year over year. 24-25 projects. The outdoor pool lighting project, this is pretty much finalized. We're waiting on certificate of occupancy from the counties to be able to officially change our data on the signs. South Club flat deck roof projects. We know parking has been a bit of a challenge at the South Club for the busy nights. This project is actually underway and is getting going. This was originally set for October, but the hurricanes definitely impacted that and the supply chain. So that's moving on now. This is not the same roof that was replaced 2 years ago. I've had a couple folks say, what's wrong with the roof? It's different. Flat top roof. Hurricane Milton Land Trust Asset Damage Insurance Update. So proof of loss forms were submitted for payment. Claims for the South Club pool deck and pickleball awning at the South Club have been processed. That includes the South Club entertainment area and some of the shade structures and the fences. Of note, the tennis court repairs and North Pickleball awning are still under review by the insurance adjuster. So continue to stay tuned for that. Winter Series 2.0, I believe we had the Madonna tribute last night, and right now things continue to go well. We've received over $137,000 of revenue on the additional 2.0 concerts. Those contract costs are around $45,000, so almost $100,000 net to the bottom line. That comes back to the community to offset future assessments, so those have been extremely successful, so thank you to Scott. Pop-up shows, Divas of Soul Part 2, we added that as a pop-up because of the feedback we received after an initial performance. That has actually already broke even, and we're in the net of about $2,500 on that show, so good things coming there. I won't read through all the special events that are coming at the main clubhouse right now, but we got the garage sale, so if you want to sell your junk or purchase somebody else's junk, feel free to come on up for that. Special event information, these days are important to us as we have community partners, the Spring Fling Business Expo and the monthly market. There's a picture there of folks standing in line for the New York bagels. Can anybody get the bagels? Okay, are they good? Okay, so we got good feedback on the bagels and they sell out, so we had long lines. So our team is actually working with the bagel distributor to see what we can do internally to bring the bagels as part of our normal operation, whether it's a one-time thing, whether it's something we highlight monthly, but we're constantly looking for different things that we can bring to the community. Based on the popularity of these, we'll see what we can do, and we'll communicate that out. But just wanted to give
Hey, Matt,
everybody yes, ma'am.
Before you move on, let me talk about the bagels. So,
There we go.
exactly. So, from Brooklyn, anybody else here from the city, you know what bagels are supposed to taste like. And I have to say, the Bagel Ladies bagels are pretty darn good. They're not exactly like New York bagels, but I think they've been pretty close to what we can find around here for bagels. So they are absolutely pretty darn good. So excellent move there, Matt.
Thank you. And I wasn't trying to butter you up, but it's just, I'll be here all week. So, yeah, whatever. All right, so monthly movie is Wicked. This year, Eddie and the team are putting together an Easter brunch on April 20th with seating for 120, so stay tuned for more details. I think I have it in here for the special event information for the South Club, maybe on the next slide. Lots of stuff going on there. This will be the first month that the team will offer back-to-back loft dinners. They continue to sell out. We've restructured some operations. Chef Scott will be hosting 2 of them now because they do sell out. So if you get a chance, take the opportunity to do that. I think that's going to be, is it the page before it? Let's see. March 14th and 15th. So keep your eyes out for that. South Club, lots of entertainment going on in March. Ongoing services, produce market, on-spot dermatology, yada, yada, yada. In other news, Hillsborough County tax rebate, I joked now twice in 2 other meetings reporting on this. Lucy received a check for $22 because Hillsborough County sent out the little forms. 22 cents, sorry, 22 cents. A lot of great rate of return for her time and energy. Our accounting office was kind enough to go through every invoice last year and through 10 to 15 hours of data entry, 10 to 15 days of data entry, excuse me, we're able to recover about $4,500 back to the community. Not a lot, but it's just the time and effort, and I appreciate their efforts doing that. I won't go over the lottery stats mainly because I forgot it in my office, but I can tell you that scratch-offs recover about 57 cents per dollar. The other tickets that you purchase for trying to win the big bucks, you get about 10% back. So if you would like to donate to the Matt Fund, you can feel free to do that, or we'll all go to the casino together and have a good time. Moffitt will be coming back to present an overview of the new Moffitt Cancer Center on March 12th. The event is full, so I will be working on adding another day or another time as well. Series shows sample costs. So this is kind of fun. Had a conversation with the resident the other day. They were talking to me about, you know, Aerosmith cover band sounds good, but they're not the real Aerosmith. Well, here we go. This is fun. Looked it up. Aerosmith and Stevie Nicks kind of type bands, they can get you in starting at $2.25 million. That's just the booking, that doesn't include some other fees. So for the Veterans Theater, that would cost us about $2,812 a ticket. So I thought that was kind of fun to look up. I think each month I'll try to bring you a new entertainer and see how much they cost. I think we got one other one. 2,800, yeah, we can do that. Can you flip? Elton John was $4 million, by the way. I did reach out and see if he would take a discount. He said no. Okay. Transportation, 3,000 miles covered in the community for the month of January. Residents using the tram about 800. Security, total phone calls about 8,200. Passes issued 15,500. Security miles driven 3,800. Of note, I think this number is actually over 5,500 now. Pete has a stack of decals he's confiscated over the last couple days that are in my office, over 5,500. Some are just folks that needed to get updated. The others are folks that no longer reside in Kings Point, so thank you, Pete, for making that personal. And let's get to some fun. I think she's here. She's pretty tall, and I don't see her on the, oh, she's back there. I see her. So my predecessor, my boss, Ginger Anzalone, was recently announced as a 2025 Businesswoman of the Year from the Tampa Bay Business Journal. So she's probably super embarrassed that I even brought this up to you all today, but she's been a great mentor for me, and behind the scenes dealing with the insurance, she's been invaluable. We had a call late last night and early this morning where she's helping to advocate and fight for the community. So Ginger, congratulations on your award, well deserved, and it's a privilege to work for you. Keep the
And-
good news.
Hey, Matt, before you move on, I just wanted, Ginger, I want to thank you so much from the board. We appreciate everything you do. You are so kind. You would take a phone call from me, or you would come and meet me anytime, and I know that. And what you and your team and Matt does for this community has just been outstanding, and we're so proud and honored to be continuing our relationship for the next 5 years. So thank you, Ginger.
I'll have to bring you a couple extra bagels for those kind words. All right, so let's keep going, more good stuff. So Tammy McGowan is our Kings Point Transportation Supervisor. Last month we highlighted some folks in housekeeping that had been here a very long time and do great things for the community. Tammy is no different, 20 years. And the reason we're gonna, yes, please. And I think Tammy's here. Oh, she's over there too.
She's in the corner.
She's in the corner. Well, we can't keep Tammy in the corner. So one of the great reasons we're going to highlight Tammy, in addition to the 20 years and the great things she does, after Hurricane Milton, Tammy took the initiative. Remember this, nobody had phone, electricity. We went through a lot of pain there. She went and personally, with another one of our team members, went to over 100 doors in the community of tram participants to check on them. And I think that's just the symbolic way of saying you go above and beyond for our residents, you care about them on a personal level, and you make what's great about Vesta and Kings Point, you just continue to shine. And Tammy, I just wanted to thank you, and if you would come on up here real quick, I've got a little something for you and a little certificate.
Do you mind if I tell a little story first?
Please do.
All right. So, as the president of the Federation, I have a couple of meetings I have to go to. And this one day, I was having back-to-back meetings, and I only have one car, and I couldn't use it, and the golf cart, blah, blah, whatever. I had no ride home. And I was looking everywhere for someone to drive me home. I even went, right into the lobby here to see if anybody was sitting at the table. I was going to, try to get a ride home, but there was nobody. So I said, damn, let me see if I qualify for taking the tram home. So I went into the office, and there was Tammy. And I sit down and explained to her my dilemma. And she was like, of course you can have a ride home. And you just, it's almost a quarter after, and that's the time you got to tell them by. And they'll be here within 15 minutes. I was like, wow. So she was just outstanding, and she talked to me the whole time. We had a wonderful conversation, and I learned about her and how dedicated she's been working here for over 20 years, supervising the whole tram department, and the driver was awesome. The entire experience was absolutely wonderful. And because I'm out of shape and I couldn't walk the 3 miles or whatever the heck it is, I got to take the tram and experience it. It was just absolutely wonderful. So Tammy, I personally want to thank you, and the Federation Board wants to thank you for everything that you do for this community.
I know she's super embarrassed, and then the tears start flowing. So, of note, probably the most impactful component of this, Tammy, is not only do we get to thank you, but those of you in attendance receive a special bonus today. Because of this, Nanette, who is resident services, helps in the business, she just does everything, has made a special cake. And so everybody in the audience, if you'd like a piece of cake, 2 cakes. What flavors? What? Reese's peanut butter? Half
Yep.
chocolate, half vanilla. So Reese's peanut. So
That's
if you'd
right.
like a piece of cake, please feel free to do so. We do have security posted by the cakes. It's basically because those cakes are now worth $18,000 with the cost of eggs. So he's going to lock that down just to make sure everybody's safe, but please feel free to take advantage of that when you go.
Thank you so much, Nanette. I have had many of Nanette's cakes, and they are outstanding. She is an awesome baker. So thank you for doing that, Nanette. We appreciate it.
Of final note, a special thanks to the emergency squad and the 2020 Center fitness staff. After we eat our cake, they performed a number of blood pressure checks. 49 residents participated, and this is just another example of partnering with the community. So thank you again to the emergency squad. That's it.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. We're going to be moving on to committee reports, and let me just start with the committee promotions committee. You can see we're having the problem with the insurance involving the tennis courts for the gates and the courts, so we're waiting to hear how that's going to develop, so we know exactly what we might have in the coffers before we continue with our committee to discuss options on improving some of the lifestyle for some of the activities here. So as soon as we find out information from the insurance, I will reschedule a community promotions meeting and we will move forward. So thank you for that. And now let's move on down to Shirley Bardale with our health and safety report.
Good morning, everybody. The Health and Safety Committee met last month and is meeting again next week. We were glad that Pete could join us from security. But 2 things came up that Pete's looking into. One of them is the tape around the cones, several problems with people, they can't see it. It either needs to be brighter or it needs to be higher, one of the 2, but Pete's looking into that. Also, there were comments about the lights, the overhead lights at the front gate needed to be brighter. So there seems to be some issues with security at the front gate, and he's looking into that. As far as health goes, the flu is still around us. The CDC talks about 11% of the population will get the flu. You're going to have symptoms like fever, body aches, weakness, and it's going to last about 7 to 14 days. So you're going to need to stay home. Don't be wandering around. The other thing that's coming up in the world is hepatitis A, specifically in the U.S., and they've tracked it to contact with people who have hepatitis A, and also contaminated food. So just be aware of that. The bird flu I've been knocked about, very, very, very low for the U.S., and it's almost always with people who handle chickens or wild birds. If you cook your poultry accordingly, you're not going to get the bird flu. If you don't get it cooked all the way through, that's where the problem can arise. So let those birds sit in the oven a little bit longer. That's it for today.
Okay, thank you very much, Shirley. Let's turn it over to Ray Shaw, Chair of the Insurance.
Good morning. There's 2 things I'd like to talk about. There's been some confusion about the agency that we're going to start up here. We are not self-insured. Everybody, please believe it. We will never be a self-insured entity. We would need hundreds of millions of dollars in assets sitting somewhere to do that, and we'll never get there. So that won't happen, and I forgot the other topic, so let me go find it. Oh, yeah, there's a meeting on Monday. Monday at 9:30 in this room, I will have Brian Burns, one of our 2 brokers, Mike Batcho, who is the head adjuster, and I don't know her last name, but her first name is Fatima, and she's from South Africa and has got a great accent. And she'll be here. She's the one that actually assembled all of the data that was done by the adjusters. She will also be here all day Monday and all day Tuesday in the Federation office for any association that after the meeting still doesn't quite understand what they're getting from the estimates. So if you are one of the communities that had a claim and are having any difficulties at all understanding it, you will have a complete understanding, I hope, by the end of the meeting at 9:30 Monday in this room. It will also be recorded, so it'll be on television. The last thing is, last week Thursday, Diane and I went to a convention in Tampa and talked to a number of people. And although we will not start out owning the agency solely, there will come a time, probably in about 2 years, where we'll have enough income in there to justify it. The nice part is all of the expenses for this beginning of the agency is being absorbed by USI and not this community. So we are having no out-of-pocket costs until we get to the point where we will be profitable. At any rate, I think I found our agent, and we will talk. I will be talking to him, and then there will be a number of people talking to him. But it's 2 years off. But I found somebody that is really good. So that's it.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Ray. All right, we're going to move on to the treasurer's report. Rich?
Okay, thank you, and good morning, everybody. And a quick aside, I was unfortunate enough to catch the flu despite being vaccinated, and trust me, this one is nastier than most, and you really don't want to get involved in it. So take whatever precautions you need, because this has been kind of a ride that I would not want to repeat anytime soon. So we're going to talk the numbers, and this is just the Federation. It has nothing to do with our amenities or any other part of Kings Point. We have the same fiscal year as all of your associations do, which is March 31st. So this is a 9-month report as of December 31st. And Arcelia, if we're on to the page, let me see where yeah, thank you. So the first half of this slide is the balance sheet, which is a point-in-time snapshot. It compares where we were December 31st to where we were at the end of the last fiscal year, March 31st of 24. Our cash balance in banks is down $155,000. That is due to moving $269,000 earlier in the year to our investment account. So overall, cash is, if you take that piece out, cash is actually up around $80,000. Investments, and this may be counterintuitive based on what I just said, down $50,000, but the reason for that is that we are taking $140,000 per quarter out of that account, and that was beginning with the April, May, June quarter, to pay some bills. That is the Spectrum credit that all of you see in your budgets, and that will continue for the next several years. So we have had 3 quarters where we took $140,000 a quarter out, and between the $269,000 we moved back in and the interest that we've earned on the investments, we're only down 50. That pace will pick up over time as short-term rates come down, and at this point it will be a decision of the next board whether to move any additional funds into the investment account. So total assets down about $205,000, and that again is due to paying out the $140 per quarter of the Spectrum funds. On the liability side, essentially no payables, and it was actually flat zero the end of December. Our restricted funds, which we'll go over in a minute, are up $94,000. And then the deferred revenue is the Spectrum money, and you can see that coming down $420,000 as it rounds. So that's the balance sheet. Now the income statement uses a different basis for comparison, that is over the entire 9-month period, so we compare 9 months to 9 months, 2024 to 2023. There have been no owner fees in fiscal 2024-25, and there will be none next year, but in the previous fiscal year there were, so that has decreased $195,000. Registrations down slightly, $6,400. And other income is interest, and the Nantucket 2 settlement came in at the very beginning of this fiscal year, so that is part of the number on the other income. The comparison to 2023, that was the other lawsuit settlement that made that number so large. So that one is funny, and it'll be a lot easier to conceptualize and explain once we get into the new fiscal year starting April 1st. But we had those both lawsuits, one affecting one year, one affecting the other, and it makes it a little confusing to look at now. Transfers to reserve funds, again, the 2023 number is so high because of lawsuits. This year we just didn't have, we didn't have that kind of activity. And then operating expenses are up. And the operating expenses are up. The major piece of that is we have finally started paying some taxes that we knew we owed on the interest income. I think we're still a little behind there. I've been communicating with our CPA to make sure we get where we need to be by the end of the fiscal year. And we'll see how much more might need to go in there. But that is a big piece of the $25,000. We also we purchased a moisture meter earlier in the year. That was another $4,250. So the expenses are running higher. They will run a little higher because we will be continuing to pay estimated taxes on our interest from this point forward. So that covers the income statement. And we can now move on to the restricted funds, which is the last slide. Yes, okay, thank you. And there hasn't been that much going on in the quarter with the restricted funds. The insurance fund had 3 payouts, all of them relatively small. Andover H, $2,000, Andover E, $300, and Oakley Green, $1,050. And as a reminder, anything not related to hurricanes or tropical storms where you have an insurance claim, you can apply to the Federation for all but the first $500 of your deductible. So would encourage you to do that if you have some kind of unknown, some kind of spontaneous water leak or other kind of issue that would require an insurance claim. Grounds cleanup. We transferred in the first fiscal quarter at $75,000. And this quarter, we did receive a payment from Brightview that did not pass all the contract criteria, $16,640. I'm sorry, I got that completely backwards. Let me step back and correct that. And as I said, the flu was not pleasant, and I'm still trying to pull myself together in some ways. That was a payment of $16,640, so I do apologize for that error. It's right on the schedule. That is the cleanup from Milton, and that is the only cleanup that we paid. So that is the offset to this. Professional services, that's where we usually have some activity. The $50,000 inflow that you see is the Nantucket 2 settlement from the very first part of this year. And then professional services for the quarter which is a little less than the $15,000 total. $8,000 in legal fees just for ongoing legal consultation and other issues. And then we had a fee that we paid to Safety Culture, which is what you get your landscape reports on. That was $2,000. On contracts, this is where we get the penalty fees for various entities that don't meet the contract criteria. Didn't have anything significant in the fiscal third quarter. We will have some coming in this current quarter that we will report on in 3 months. The outflow there is primarily for the palm fertilization. The Federation picked up that bill in its entirety, $22,000, and that's the majority of the year-to-date outflow of the $28,000. And then registration fees year-to-date, $67,000. We transfer a small amount out every month to cover ongoing expense, and we transferred the $75,000 at the beginning of the fiscal year into the grounds cleanup to get that balance up a little bit higher, not knowing what we might be facing. Interest, we're doing well. These are net of expected taxes, these numbers here. So for the fiscal year, $65,000 of interest relating to Spectrum funds and $17,400 related to our other general investments that we've moved in there. And that brings our grand total since the beginning of the investment account to $118,000 on Spectrum funds and $18,000 on the rest. General expenses, they're pretty minimal usually. $5,481, that does not include the estimated tax payment because I've already netted that out of the interest, so it would be double counting it if I threw it into the expense. And that's where we are on restricted funds. So,
Thank you so much, Rich.
okay.
I really appreciate it.
That is the report.
Okay. We're almost into March, and that's going to be the last month of the fiscal year. Our fiscal year goes from April 1st to March 31st. So next month, our membership meeting is going to be on the 28th, I believe. Yeah. Which will be the last Friday of the month. That'll be the end of the fiscal year. It's going to be a wonderful meeting. We have a lot of things to report. We'll also be introducing candidates that put in applications for the Federation Board Tuesday on the 25th at 9:30 in the morning in the 2020 building in the North Forum Room. Will be a certification of the candidates. So we actually had candidates that put in to be on the board. So anyone is welcome to come to that if they'd like, to make sure they're not felons and that they're paying their monthly dues, right? Okay. So anybody is welcome to come to that meeting on the 25th. 2024 and early part of 2025, it's been an exciting year, folks, and balancing act, to say the most. And we've had to be dealing with 5 contracts. And our last one that we're working on, and Paul from First Service had mentioned, is our landscaping. So we have the bids coming in, and the end of this month, Bush Ross, our law partners for the Federation Board, will be coming in and will disclose the bids to the board and the landscape committee, and then we've got our work cut out for us. So that will be happening then, because we got to get this all ready. People running around with lawnmowers on April 1st. So we've definitely got a task ahead for us on that. But other than that, we made it through with the other contracts. I have to say I'm pretty happy with Republic so far, and that's who's handling the bins and the dumpsters, not the curbside people, bins and dumpsters. And so far, Paul had mentioned There's really hardly been any complaints, and I think that the transferring of the bins and dumpsters were phenomenal. So I think they've done an awesome job, and we want that to continue, and we're looking forward to developing a very good relationship with them over the next year. Like Richard had reported, the Federation paid for the palm fertilization. I mean, we had the money. Why would we want to put the burden on you? We had it. Let's pay for it. So we paid for it. And, you know, we still have some issues going on with landscaping that I am telling you, diligently working. I am so sick of the word landscaping. Right? So we are working on ways to find solutions so that one day I look forward to a meeting where nobody talks about landscaping. So we're working on that diligently, believe me. So I want to thank all our volunteers in the audience here. We're all volunteers up here. It's not easy being a volunteer in this complicated, crazy way that Kings Point is governed. So thank you so much for all that each of you do. It's very important because Kings Point couldn't exist without volunteers. So thank you, everybody. And I hope to see all of you, and I'm going to hope and ask First Service to reach out to all the associations so that they will be present for our annual meeting. So thank you. All right, we have no unfinished business, and now we're at open forum for agenda items. Good morning, Rodney. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Rodney Walker, Oakley Green. Richard, relative to finances specific to landscaping and what I will call the non-contractual return of monies to Kings Point for not following the contract of these landscapers. What amount total is that? And can you lay out who was most of the collections from?
Third quarter or year to date, I should say, $46,000 in penalty fees. And some of that was from Monster. I believe, I do not have the
All the
ledger.
other landscaping companies except Brightview.
Yeah.
Each one of the other landscaping companies has failed. Monster failed once, and Brightview was the only one that allegedly passed.
Okay, and what was the most monies collected from which particular landscape company?
I can get you that, Ronnie. And some of that there's been a bunch more this current quarter that ends March 31st. So
We'll get that number definitely
Yeah.
for it next month, Ronnie, but
Okay.
Russell's has failed at least twice.
Okay, great. And the only other thing I'd like to remind this group of is if there's any gleeful moment relative to landscaping is when Paul pays for all of us to celebrate that he failed.
Sally Reisman, President, Acadia 2.
Good morning, Sally.
Good morning. My question has to do with landscaping. I know it's your favorite subject.
okay.
As president, I spend a good part of my day on problems associated with the association. I now will be doing the POC position as well because my POC, who is fantastic, is leaving to become the secretary. So now I have two jobs. So I need some clarification from landscaping on what is the interpretation of the word complete. What exactly do I have to look forward to when I look at a work order and see that it is marked complete, but yet I've just hung up from speaking with a resident who is yelling in both ears, okay, about no service on her trees, on her bushes that are above the window.
And Sally, you heard the chuckling in the room, so we have many POCs
I
in here.
feel, yes.
Yeah.
Kathy Day, who's next to me in Acadia 1, and also Lucy, and everybody knows Lucy. Where is she?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay. We all, you know, we have our little circle there.
I do. So, Paul, would you mind addressing that question for Sally?
Good morning.
Good morning.
As it relates to landscape, the best way for me to respond to you, frankly, is I would prefer to take each one and look at them on their own merit and the inputs and the outcomes. I know that there's a little something going on with this, with the word complete, right, in the work order system. So if you're referring to the part of the work order process where the initial responses were complete, when it really, a better word to acknowledge receipt might be received, is that what you're referring to?
That's what I think is happening.
Yes, because that doesn't indicate that it's done, as
Exactly.
I'm sure you know, right?
Yes.
So I have to dig into the where it,
Okay.
will that particular word, the use of that word, will that be remedied as we make the transition to using upkeep instead of safety culture? I don't know that answer right this second, but I do know about this definitional problem. And the best thing for me to tell you is this. There's, I have some ideas that the Fed board and myself have been talking about. Landscaping has been an issue in this community for, I don't know, maybe since before I was born. You know, what do you want me to tell you? So I'm coming on my third month here. And editorially, I'm trying to still view this community without any blinders and just think about what we're observing and what we're all experiencing if I were in your shoes. And I believe that there is a fundamental problem between how we have broken up the work between irrigation and landscaping, meaning irrigation rests with the Federation. I'm sorry, the master, and landscaping rests under our banner. And in most communities in my past, and not everybody in this room knows this about me, but I do have a production home building and development background, big builder land. And as the developer, like as the WCIs, they never split that apart. They never do, and there's a reason. The reason is you want to have a sole point of responsibility from the vendors so that this whole hamster wheel that we seem to be on, which is who didn't do what correctly, I mean, I'm not mincing words, you guys, I think, feel what I feel. To get off of that hamster wheel, there has to be a pretty fundamental change. And I believe that that fundamental change is to make the landscape vendors, of whom almost all big landscape companies have an irrigation division. And I'm foreshadowing, and this may just be the Paul Stern I have a dream speech, but if there's some way that we can make a change of responsibility on this matter, I do believe that it'll bring about a quantum change in what you actually experience in this community. And it is just possible that we will someday stop talking about landscaping at every meeting.
That would be a break for all of us. We're tired of talking about it. We're tired of trying to make our residents understand that it's not a quick process and that we're doing the best that we can. And most of them do understand that.
Yeah.
Another issue is the oversight. Okay, oversight is a needed activity when you have people working for you. That's a basic fact of management. Okay, if you don't do oversight and people are not knowing or they don't want to accept that somebody is going to be looking at their work and making a decision, is it good or is it bad? Is there oversight consistently with the vendors?
The answer to that question is yes, and what I would like to do, frankly, is if you feel, it all goes to understand oversight and to have a correct and relatively neutral view on the entire discussion, it all goes back to what exactly is in the landscape agreements, what are you paying for as a community, and is it being delivered? So there is oversight, and there's an incredible amount of steps to it and people dedicated to it. So I would like to use specific examples instead of what I find, I mean, I'm just speaking from the heart, what I find very hard to be effective at is addressing generalized critique. If there's a particular work order or a particular community that you want to call to our attention, I certainly welcome that. And then what I want to do is have our group go out, walk with the POCs or yourself, and if there's something going on in your community, let's go look at it together so that we either determine that A, the critique is correct, meaning there's a deficiency not being performed in agreement with the contract scope, or B, if expectations are outside of the contract scope, then we need to educate whomever is disappointed, so to speak, that they are looking for something that is outside of scope. It's just that simple.
Okay, Sally, I
Okay,
want to thank you
that's-
because your time is up.
I
And as
know,
you're
I
walking, I'm
know.
going to just make a point.
Thank you.
This Federation Board does not believe that POCs are responsible for enforcing landscaping contracts. The contractors are supposed to be fulfilling the contract under all the criterion divisions that they are supposed to be inspected and graded on. That is under First Services umbrella with our landscape specialists. It is not the POC's job to be constantly out there trying to find what the landscape contractors have not done. So the Federation Board has tasked Paul with taking a nice deep look into the oversight and the function of the landscape specialist so we can take that burden off of POCs and get it back to what it originally was in just a work order, not multiple work orders, a work order. So Paul is doing that now. So he is definitely taking a big look at this, and we know how it is out there, and we are striving to get this corrected for you. So thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Dave Ferrelli, Grantham Greens. I've asked this question before in previous meetings, and I'll ask it again. The $118,000 interest on the Spectrum money, is that planned to be paid back to the associations as it was earned that way, or what is the deal?
Our interpretation of the Federation bylaws, and I believe, and I'm sure someone will correct me, but I believe it's Article 10, Section 7, is that is a prohibited activity for us. We cannot pay money back to associations, to individual associations. That's
I understand.
expressly prohibited in the bylaws.
I understand that's in everyone's bylaws, associations too, but when the contract with the Spectrum was done, the door fee money was taken off the billing cost. I'm asking, is the $118,000 going to be reduced to billing cost, or is that just going to be money pocketed to the Federation?
Pocketed?
Well,
What do you mean by that?
by your...
Is that the cruise we're all going
No,
on next year?
improves your bottom line because of another income, which means you could lower our, you can not charge us again next year and keep our budget at zero.
Again, that's going back to the associations. The money we will be looking at as projects for the community to help
Okay.
offset any increases
Okay.
for associations.
Okay.
That absolutely is going to be going towards that.
Okay, that's what I
Okay.
was wondering. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Jack Davidson, Tremont, 1.
Good morning, Jack.
Good morning. Paul, do you know what time the board certification meeting is going to be on the 6th? And when are you going to put out a notice? And the only reason I'm asking is the community needs to know by state statute that every board member must now attend the 4-hour session. Even though you've attended a 2-hour session, it's no longer any good. All the board members of all 113 associations must attend the 4-hour session, or either do it in person or, as you said, through online. So, I mean, you're going to have a huge quantity of people to hold this session for because it's mandated by state statute now. And here we are at the 21st of February, and you're scheduling a meeting for March 6th. We need to get that notice out, and you need to let the boards know when you send the notice out that it is mandatory for them to attend or either in person or online and go through this 4-hour course.
Sorry about that. Good morning, Jack. Correct, it is a 4-hour certification. Everything you just said was accurate. In terms of when the notice is, was that, I didn't detect an actual question. Are you asking me when are we going to
What
publish
time is
them?
it going to be on the 6th, and when is the notice for it going out to the community?
Very well. Ursula, do you know that answer by chance? The exact time?
It's starting at 8:30 registered, and it started at 9 o'clock is the course. And it's on March 6th, yes. And I gave all the flyers to the camp to distribute to their board.
Is it going to every board member, or?
Yes,
And when do you expect those flyers to be sent out?
yeah. And we will send a mass communication to the board this week.
An email?
Yes,
And you said it's going to start registration. Is there going to be pre-registration?
yes, that's 8:30.
And no other pre-registration
You
before
can
that?
reserve it to your camp, like,
Okay.
I mean, it's completely at your behest. It's the in-person. Outside of that, there'll be an on-demand through
No,
our
but a lot of boards need to know, because we have a lot of new boards, need to know that this course is mandatory by state statute. It
Correct.
isn't that I want to go to the course. It's you have to go to the course as a board member or take it online. You have a requirement by the state to serve on the board.
True statement.
To go through the 4-hour course.
That's true.
Thank you.
Very well.
Jill Clays, Highgate C. I just want to know when
Morning,
that law just went into effect, because we did get our emails in Highgate C. I can't speak for everybody, yesterday or 2 days ago, within those last 2 days, and it did say new board members. And so this is the first that, and several around here have all been saying the same thing. This is all news to us, that all board members. So we need to have something accurate and immediate information, I guess. Thank you.
Jill, what we can do today is we'll correct it. We'll put out a mass communication and correct any of the fog about this issue. The 4-hour certification? I believe so, but again, I'm going to have to confirm that.
Hey, Jill, Jill, so the state law went into effect in July, but it got effective January 1st. Board members that have already been on the board are required to take a 2-hour course. New board members are required to take the 4-hour course, and then the following year, they will then naturally go to the 2 hours. Because of the time constraints and availability of the attorney, it was just easier for them to come to do the 1 4-hour course. So our new board members that are required under the 2-hour law and then the 4 hours would just take it all at the same time. Okay, so that was the reason behind that.
I'm up. Richard Prenti, Highgate 4.
Good morning, Richard.
Something just came up with that question. You said, people have been on the board, but I never had any course before, so I'm still required to take the 4-hour?
Yes, Richard. This
Okay.
course, when you come that
Even
day,
if I-
you're going to get your little certificate and you will be good to go for 2025.
Okay, next question, something you had never covered before, landscaping. I just have a question. gone around with the landscapers, just watching them, and nobody has said they've had any training of any kind. They're just given a blower or a thing to trim the bushes and said, go for it. Why isn't there any kind of certification from the workers or something that makes the employers of these people make sure they have some sort of training?
So that is the companies are mandated to have their employees trained. Okay, that is not the
Who
Federation of First Services responsibility. We have the
I know.
oversight of the contract.
Yeah, I just wondered who verifies that they train them, because people I've talked to that are working for them, it's hard because I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah. That's
To-
entirely up to the
I have to
landscape committee.
find the
Excuse me,
one-
I apologize, the companies, the
Yeah, I
landscape
find
companies.
One out of the 5 that speaks some English, and I says, how long was your training? What training? That's why I'm wondering.
And,
what they're
and
doing.
actually, Richard, all residents are not supposed to even be interfering with the
No,
workers,
I'm
right?
as the POC for
Ah,
that.
okay.
So I just asked what kind of training they had,
Yeah, that,
because I'm watching them. One lady comes bush this high, next one's from down this high. They're next to each other.
I understand. I know.
Okay, all right.
It's frustrating. That's my second favorite word.
Take it easy.
Thank you for your point, Richard.
Good morning, Debbie Dubasar, Fairfield F.
Good morning, Deb.
Questions out there. What if the board member does not want to participate and take in a class, but you have no choice but to have just your president, vice president, and maybe a secretary? What ends up happening?
To remain on the board, you're going to have the cert per statute. So if someone doesn't want to do online, doesn't want to do the in-person, just doesn't, period, just doesn't, then you're going to end up having to replace that party on your board.
Then if that interferes with our quorum, what do we do?
I don't.
Well, I
don't-
mean, the board. If it interferes with the board members being on board and you don't have anybody else to replace them, what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, and Deb, you know that you can always have unfortunately, the double tasks. So you could have, the president, secretary, and then the vice president, treasurer type of situation until you can find another person.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we have no new business. It's time for good and welfare.
Hey, real quick, right before, what we're going to do to try to truly clarify it with zero interpretation is we'll send out a mass communication with a link to the statute that was passed that has to do with this board certification. So you're not reading an attorney's opinion, you're not listening to my opinion or anyone else's opinion. You can read what was passed and read it and comprehend it on your own and choose your own method of education if you're a board member that you deem appropriate for yourself. Because there's a huge amount of somewhat contradictory information floating around right now. So the best way for us to clear this up is to share the statute so that you can read it yourself. And I truly believe that will put this part of the conversation, of today's conversation, to rest.
Thank you. Good morning, Lucy Malakis,
morning,
Edinburgh
Lucy.
President. I'm going to do a good. And I just want to do a shout out to the pickleball people. And the reason is when I had my 13-year-old grandson here, he wanted to play pickleball so badly, I went on to KP What's Up and said, how can he do that? He doesn't have a paddle or anything like that. I must have had 20 replies. And then some beautiful lady came up when she met him. I took him over there, gave him a pickleball paddle, said, I don't use it anymore. And he just fell in love with this lady. And also the volleyball men, boom, they let him play volley. I mean, it was amazing. I was just so impressed with how kind and open they were to playing with my cool 13-year-old grandson. So that's it.
We do have awesome people living here, don't we? Before you get going, Lisa, everybody, this is Lisa. This is her first membership meeting.
Hi there, now that you know who I am part of the wonderful KP Cares organization. And if you don't know about us, we are a group of Kings Point residents who volunteer our time to other Kings Point residents in need. Such things as there's a lot of people that can't take their garbage to the dumpster. So we get phone calls that they need help with that. There are a lot of people who are coming home from the hospital and need, some grocery shopping done. We will do that for them. There's a lot of people that are coming home alone and do not have food in their home at that time, and we will start a meal train for them. There's a lot of people that are alone and don't have people to communicate with, and we do our Tuesday chit chats. There are a lot of things that KP Cares does and that we want to continue to do, but we also need Kings Point people to help us volunteer and make this organization grow into what it should be to help our residents. In front of you, there is a piece of paper that gives you a general idea of what our Kings Point volunteers will do for other Kings Point residents. One of our goals is to try to get 1, 2, 3 people in each association to be our liaison. Kat and I are taking a lot of the responsibilities with phone calls and delegating the jobs, but we would like to have somebody in each association, one, know your neighbors. Know that your neighbor cannot go out and get the garbage. Know that your neighbor came home from the hospital and doesn't have food in the refrigerator. Know that your neighbor can't get to CVS or Walgreens to pick up their prescription. Know that your neighbor is really lonely and would love to go to a Tuesday chit chat. So it's important if we can have people contact Kat or myself. The email is on the flyer that you have in front of you, and tell us what association you are in and to say that you will be that liaison for your association as we hopefully get our organization to grow and do what we are hoping to do for this community.
Thank you, Lisa.
Any questions?
Wait, 3 minutes is up. We only have 3 minutes per person. Hey. Thank you so much, ladies, for everything that you do. All right. I have one more thank you that I'd like to give to a woman who has served this community, and I hope I'm saying this right, for over 25, 30 years, and who has finally decided to live her life with her husband. And I would like everyone to give a great hand to Susan Raba, who's in the back audience, for all her service to this community. And she has officially retired and come off her board. Thank you, Susan, for everything you've done for Kings Point. Okay, everybody. With that, I am moving for someone to make a motion to adjourn, and let's eat cake. Thank you, Debbie. And thank you very much.